From an early age, I knew I wanted to be an engineer. I was influenced by a grandfather that was a welder pipe fitter. In his shop during summer visits, you would think the valued learning was how to weld. However, the most important lesson came from the stories I heard in his coworkers. It was a lesson of recognizing and leveraging diversity of thought, people, and the roles that they play. It was clear that lesson also influenced my father, who constantly reminded me in all things, do your best and apply the learnings from your grandfather. Anytime I slipped or I backed up, I immediately heard, are you doing your best? Sometimes I heard it directly with a little nudge, but even more powerful was that ingrained message that was in my head when it was needed. Both taught and instilled in me never to settle, never accept the status quo, to challenge myself and others, but to do so from a firm base of humility. I used both of their perspectives while building relationships with operators and maintenance associates in my early assignments. We often talked about do your best, so we do our best as a team. I recognized it was these resources that were getting things done, ensuring our customers had outstanding products, and that as subject matter experts, our operators and maintainers were critical to our success. Whether it was opportunities with safety, quality, or efficiency, we had deep, on-the-floor discussions to troubleshoot, to identify opportunity causes, and to correct problems. We were enabled as a team and empowered to do our best, leading to more than incremental improvement. We had step changes that took departmental performance to levels not seen before. Fast forward a few years. I stepped into a new role as a maintenance and reliability subject matter expert to start up our corporate TPM and reliability efforts. In my scramble to keep up, I lost touch with my core principles that had helped me early on, particularly the need to seek others' input and buy-in, and probably most disappointingly, some of that critical humility that helped me be successful early on. My intense focus on results and dissatisfaction with them led to a growing frustration that caused me to utter a phrase that has stuck with me ever since, that is absolutely the opposite of do your best. I was in a room with our manufacturing leaders, people that I had a tremendous respect for. I was disappointed with our direction and with the conversation that was happening, and I blurted out 4 words that I will never forget. We don't get it. We don't get it. How simple, how powerful, but how harmful is that statement? I ignored the subconscious voices of my grandfather and father in that moment. Those words caused others to react in unintended ways, and I couldn't find the courage to say what I really needed to say. I did not do my best. I wanted to hit pause, then rewind, but in that brief moment, the damage was done. And I have lived for years with the consequences of that phrase. We don't get it. Led us down a trail of using metrics, audits, and fancy spreadsheets to justify whether our facilities got it or were going to get it, if you know what I mean. Everybody wanted to be on the get it list, but it led to a lot of games, a lot of hurt feelings, and most importantly, a lot of damaged relationships. I went from being a relationship person focused on empowering others at the plant level to having poor relationships at the corporate level and hindering our success as an organization. I didn't realize it at the time, but when I let we just don't get it out, I had betrayed myself, but most importantly, all those people who had encouraged and supported me through life and career. I lacked the courage to speak truth to power and truth to self in that moment when it was most needed. I should have told the group of leaders in that room, I wasn't doing my best, that we in the room weren't doing our best, and therefore we were preventing the greater organization from doing its collective best. I was forced to think back to those perspectives that had influenced me early in my career. Be humble, value others, and do your best. I had to refocus on my customers, reading them, hearing them, seeking their input with a mindset of advocacy. I recognize that while do your best may have been in my DNA, I had to share and apply that in my personal actions to influence and build the right culture. Today, when I think about doing my best so we do our best, these things are most critical. Be humble, be vulnerable, acknowledge your gaps, and leverage the strengths of others. It is okay to have more questions than answers. Just expect facts and data to make informed decisions, and don't accept anecdotal responses. Before asking others what they are going to do, pause, think, act with a mindset of what I'm doing and what I'm going to do. Take the opportunity to self-empower rather than waiting to be empowered. Yes, this may mean that you have to ask forgiveness later instead of permission now, but that's okay. Use the slow no approach. Y'all are probably thinking, what in the world does slow no mean? Well, there are two perspectives to consider. One is whether you're being told no, and the second is if you're telling someone no. When you're on the receiving end of no on something you are passionate about, confident in, don't accept no immediately. Ask for and figure out the why of the no. Adjust and try again. No doesn't always mean no the way we interpret it, and it shouldn't cause us to wallow in our sorrow. Rather, it should cause us to reflect, to regroup, and build a better, more sound case. Second, when you're on the giving end of no, be mindful of how quickly you give it. Challenge yourself to ask more clarifying questions. Check your understanding and ask yourself what you might be shooting down and the potential long-term ramifications. Another way to put this, establish and expect a culture of challenge, both pushing the envelope and it pushing you. Be prepared to give forgiveness. Always go back to the basic question, am I doing my best so my fellow associates can do their best to ensure we collectively do our best? I'll close with a quick story about my dad who is living these principles. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer almost 9 years ago, progressing from normal treatment routes to very radical options to now some bleeding edge experimental drugs. While I didn't recognize it initially, he was practicing these principles and going through a very personal experience. As he went through various treatments that in some cases he was driving his physicians on, it became clear the diagnosis and treatment cycles weren't early enough. I was in that cold, post-surgery recovery room that I know many of us have experienced with loved ones. He had just gone through the most radical surgery he could have, and he was putting a little warmth in the room with a few smiles and a laugh here and there. His doctor, who had become a trusted friend and an advisor, came in the room and said to my dad, "Most men die with prostate cancer. You will die from it." It was an ominous, disheartening message to hear, knowing the sacrifices that he had made, especially this most recent one. It takes courage in such a moment to look at death, knowing it is going to win at some point, and to challenge it, to punch it in the nose. My dad took that message with a smirk, looked at the doctor and the looming shadow in the room and said, "I'm going to be here as long as I can for my family. So what's next? Because I'm going to keep doing my best." My challenge to us all is to never settle, never give up, keep challenging. Help hold me, hold yourself, and hold others accountable to doing your best so we collectively do our best. Thank you.